Topping today's news, the Minister of Health speaks to a cluster of new COVID cases on Exuma. The minister responsible for NIB hints at an inevitable rate increase. Regional leaders begin to arrive for CARICOM, which begins on Wednesday, and police officers taking close to 50 guns off the streets already in 2023. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. A small cluster of 12 positive cases of COVID-19 has been identified on the island of Exuma. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Dowell revealing as much today, noting that there has been a COVID outbreak at the Ellen Coakley High School on Morstown or in Morstown, Exuma, and 5 of those testing positive are students.
Of the 12 cases that are positive, 5 were from Ellen Coakley High School. 22 have now gone into quarantine in the community as part of our surveillance mechanism. This morning at 10:30, I have a team of about 11 individuals will go into Exuma to finalize the data, but I want to assure the community that it is an isolated cluster that is now presently under control. And from time to time throughout the country, we do find ourselves in situations with mild clusters of COVID-19 positive cases. I want to thank the team at the Exuma Health Services for a job well done. They have been in close contact with our surveillance team, and my team will be on the ground in probably about 11 o'clock to do the final assessments and to do some additional testing.
Dr. Dowell telling reporters just before the weekly cabinet meeting that additional testing will take place on the island for those who believe they may have been exposed.
Done it hundreds of times before, and this is no different. It's a small cluster, and we need to be very careful to sensitize the community to create panic. Clusters will happen of COVID-19. COVID-19 is still in the country. We have cases of COVID-19, but there's no need for panic because clusters will happen.
Over the past several months, there has been a decline in COVID-19 testing and closure of several free government testing sites. In light of this latest incident, there have been questions about the need for these sites to reopen. Minister Dowell advises that free COVID-19 testing is still available.
We have free testing at all of our clinics. That has never happened. That's never closed. We had some free testing sites. They're still open as part of our free testing mechanism. During the Christmas holidays, there were some mild spikes. It had to do with a lot of people traveling, a lot of interaction. It is our job in our surveillance unit and our job in our infectious disease crew to ensure that we monitor these cases. As far as we're concerned, there is nothing to be too concerned about at this present moment because our team will be on the ground by 11 o'clock.
Minister Dowell assures the public that the outbreak is under control and that there is no need to worry. Meanwhile, a member of Parliament for the Exumas and Ragged Island, Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper, reiterating that while COVID-19 is contained, it is not eliminated. He cautions his constituents on Exuma to continue to practice health protocols to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19, and he sends this message to them.
Continue to exercise sensible precautions, continue to sanitize, continue to be very diligent about your surroundings. If you can avoid large crowds, you do so. I'm confident that the Ministry of Health is actively engaged with the processing and monitoring of the incidences that have been reported in one of the schools. And no doubt they will have a further report.
That was Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation Chester Cooper speaking to his constituents in relation to a number of positive COVID tests on Exuma. After engaging in quite a bit of heated back and forth with the official opposition following the tabling of the 2022-2023 Fiscal Strategy Report in the House of Assembly on February 1st, last week, during debate, Prime Minister Philip Davis said to avoid confusion over the purpose for the fiscal report, the government will seek to take a new approach when presenting this report. We learn more on what the government intends to do in this next report. Last Wednesday, while speaking during debate on the 2022-2023 Fiscal Strategy Report, tabled a week earlier in the House of Assembly, Prime Minister Philip Davis accused the official opposition of purposefully sowing seeds of confusion in relation to the medium-term forecast presented in the 2021-2022 Fiscal Strategy Report as compared to those presented in the 2022-2023 Fiscal Strategy Report. The Prime Minister had the following to say about the opposition's actions.
It is hard to determine whether their confusion was genuine or simply posturing in order to cause political mischief. To avoid further misunderstanding, let me first set out what the law requires. In compliance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018, Second Schedule 5, the annual fiscal strategy report contains medium-term fiscal forecasts outlining actual, estimated, and projected fiscal values. These estimates, however, are not binding and do not necessarily constitute the annual budget. Section 10(6) of the Act outlines and requires that the annual budget be prepared in accordance with the fiscal objectives of the Fiscal Strategy Report. Let me be clear. The Fiscal Strategy Report is not the budget itself.
Prime Minister Davis says the distinction between the annual budget and the Fiscal Strategy Report is important because they go through two completely unique processes at different times of year. As a result of the confusion caused by the opposition, the Prime Minister says the government has decided to make some changes to the Act as it relates to releasing the Fiscal Strategy Report and the Medium-Term Debt Management Strategy Report.
This misunderstanding, whether feigned or real, is a major reason why this year's debate will be the last debate of the Fiscal Strategy Report and the Medium-Term Debt Management Strategy as standalone documents debated in isolation. The political mischief making that accompanies these debates does cause real reputational and economic harm to our country. Madam Speaker, so I'm pleased to announce that in the soon-to-be-tabled revised Public Financial Management Act, the Fiscal Strategy Report and the Medium-Term Debt Management Strategy will be tabled at the same time as the annual budget.
Prime Minister Davis went on to explain that currently, in order to present the Fiscal Strategy Report on time in November would result in the exclusion of 10 months of empirical data. He says this is why the Fiscal Strategy Report cannot be the government's primary influencer of budget projections, further stating that this approach is unwise at best and at worst simply foolish. The Prime Minister wanted to assure the public that his government is one of fiscal discipline.
Let me make this extremely clear. We believe in fiscal discipline, accountability, and transparency. The legislation is being revised to support just that. Not only will the revised framework increase accountability, it will expand the scope of the existing fiscal legislation to include additional fiscal parameters.
Next up for debate, according to Prime Minister Davis, will be the mid-year budget review that is expected to be tabled in the House of Assembly in approximately 2 weeks. A 44-year-old male of Sir Lyndon Pindling Estates is in hospital, his condition unknown, following a shooting incident on Monday evening. Shortly before 6 p.m., the victim was in his vehicle in the area of Camp Road and Parkgate Road when he was approached by two males on a red moped motorbike. One of them produced a handgun and fired gunshots at the victim, which resulted in him being shot to the back. The injured man was able to drive himself to the Wolf Road police station, where he reported the matter and was subsequently taken to the hospital for medical assistance. Police investigations continue into that matter. Thousands of lives have been saved as the Royal Bahamas Police Force operations yields successful results. Just 2 months into 2023, as officers have taken over 42 firearms along with 2,272 rounds of ammunition off of our streets, across the Bahamas. Chief Superintendent of Police Christlyn Skippings revealing those figures during a press briefing on Monday and says these numbers equate to 2,272 lives being saved by seizing those weapons and the ammunition.
And we will continue to do our due diligence, and we continue to thank members of the public who partner with their Royal Bahamas Police Force. You have to understand the drugs contribute to the crime and the firearms. And so when you contact your Royal Bahamas Police Force and you provide us with that information, you're actually saving someone's life.
Chief Superintendent Skippings thanks members of the public for your continued support, and while continuing to encourage those who may know of individuals who possess illegal firearms and or ammunition to contact the police anonymously at Crime Stoppers. That's 328-TIPS, 328-8477. And finally, in this segment, the joint national security exercise between the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands, which includes 20 Royal Bahamas Police Force officers being sent to the Turks and Caicos, has been deemed a success. During a celebratory reception of the Turks and Caicos Islands and the Bahamas diaspora on Monday evening, the Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, Charles Washington Mizik, thanked Prime Minister Philip Davis for his continued support.
Last year we had 33 murders. And people were scared out of their wits because it was totally unprecedented. Your police officers melded seamlessly with ours. They brought some experience and expertise which they were able to share with our technical unit. They were boots on the ground for us. And of course, having shared the same heritage, they understand the culture of the place. We have some of the same issues that you have. You call them shanty towns or shanties. We call them informal settlements or yards. And so they were able to maneuver through those places.
Assistant Commissioner of Police Kendall Strawn, appointed as Special Constable, headed the operation that took place in October of 2022 to assist with the Turks and Caicos Islands' growing crime problem. The police force and the government face criticism from the public here in the Bahamas, considering the Bahamas has its own serious crime problem. But the Deputy Governor of the Turks and Caicos Islands, Anya Williams, while expressing her appreciation, stresses the importance of neighboring countries collaborating.
So we really want to single out these gentlemen and the Royal Bahamas Police Force and also your Prime Minister, because when we made a call, they answered. We are truly appreciated for that, because we know that the Bahamas had its challenges as well. We knew that you took some concern and criticism from your own residents, but the Turks and Caicos Islands is eternally grateful to you. We appreciate the support provided, and certainly we want to reciprocate the support where we can as well.
Premier Mizik says he has hopes that the two countries can share their experiences and continue to work together. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.